end. It comes out to Tom James. Good job! Oh, what a goal! What a goal from Tom James! Oh, that was special!
Well, good evening and welcome to Orient Live here in the E10 studio. I'm absolutely delighted to be joined by former Orient left-back Joe Widdowson and journalist Andrew Butler. And it's another Tuesday night under the lights here at the Gaughan Group Stadium as the O's are facing Port Vale, and it feels like it's only been a couple of weeks since we last faced them and they're fighting for their lives down at the foot of the table. And on paper, Andrew, it looks like quite a tasty one for Orient tonight.
Yeah, and it really feels like, I mean, I'm sure we'll see from Richie, but he alludes to the fact that this is kind of it for the playoffs, because we win tonight, then we're back in the hunt, I think. Lose tonight, then it's really slipped away. So it feels like a massive game for us, certainly. And for Port Vale, I mean, they are really struggling down the bottom of the table. So it feels like a huge game for them too. So hopefully it'll be entertaining, of course, and hopefully it'll be both teams like really going for it, because there feels like almost like last throw of the dice for both teams.
And as I said, we did play them, I think, 3, maybe 4 Tuesdays ago on a show, or maybe a bit longer. But the way our fixtures have been, it's come so thick and fast. It does live fresh in the memory, that Idris El Mazouni goal, a fantastic Tom James pass. But in terms of facing up against them, it feels like we know what we're coming up against.
Yeah, obviously I think, you're right in saying that last game at their place wasn't too long ago. I don't think they had their manager in place at that time, so, maybe the impact of, Darren Moore coming in, might sort of make them a bit more organised, bit of a stronger outfit. They're going by their results. They don't seem to have really changed, too much. So, I think it's looking like a very winnable game. I think if Orient sort of get the basic things right, I can't see Port Vale really getting anything from the game tonight, if I'm honest.
I'm going to squash Joey's confidence there though, because as we'll come on to in just a moment in Richie's pre-match interview, he said the games here, Burton, Bristol Rovers, they're the ones that have been the banana skins and that we should have won. We go and get results against the likes of Portsmouth and Bolton, and then these are the ones that maybe we find a little bit trickier when teams sitting against us. Yeah,
it's been a curious second half of the season in that respect, because Richie has mentioned the fact that you're right, all those games that look hardest on paper, we've really excelled ourselves, and we've probably let ourselves down against the likes of Bristol Rovers and Burton Albion when they've come here. And in those games we've also looked quite easy to play against, which has been a real frustration. So hopefully tonight we can really be on the front foot, put Port Vale to the sword early, because I think it's that element of once teams get into the game, they realise that there's something to play for and we can be got at, which we haven't really in the second half of the season been that easy to get out. We've certainly established ourselves on most of the games, and it's against those teams that are down the bottom of the table that we've found it a bit harder to play against. So hopefully tonight we'll turn that in our favour.
Richie says in his interview, Joe, that we've changed a couple of things looking at those games against Bristol Rovers and Burton Albion. How do you go about setting up against a team that are scrapping? What are those small changes you can make to try and impose yourself on a lesser team?
Perhaps just being a little bit more direct and not as patient as we tend to be sometimes in terms of our build-up. Obviously, we like to keep possession and dominate the ball, and teams are aware of that, and they're happy to come in and slow the game down and get men behind the ball and wait for their opportunities to counter and set pieces and the like. But I think if we can sort of be maybe a little bit more direct, try and get balls in the box, get crosses in the box, make teams defend rather than just sort of be passive in terms of like, shuffling from side to side, and like if we can get into those attacking areas in the final third and really sort of be direct, take people on, get shots off. Do you know what I mean? Even if it's not necessarily the prettiest of football, but just to make teams, force them to defend, force them to make clearances and make blocks and tackles, and then you do that so often and you wear teams down eventually, or teams make mistakes, or they have lapses in concentration. So as much as we want to try and play good football and be nice and intricate around the box, sometimes it is just a case of getting the ball out your feet and taking a shot. You know what I mean? You might get a ricochet, a deflection. Do you know what I mean? And then someone taps it in. So yeah, I think perhaps that might be the way to go. Get balls in the box and just a bit more direct, I think, at times.
Well, we've alluded to his interview a couple of times now, so it's time to hear the real deal and hear from the man himself. It's Richie Wellens.
And you mentioned the subs on Saturday there, they all came quite early. Just how tough physically has this, not just the last couple of weeks, but since maybe the beginning of February, been on our squad, which is still young?
Yeah, well, it's the way we play, and it's also the athleticism that we ask of our wingers, the athleticism that we ask of our fullbacks. Liverpool are a good example. We play, the way that we press is very similar to Liverpool, and Jurgen Klopp asks his players to go for 60, 70 minutes maximum, and then he's obviously bringing Salah on, he's bringing Gakpo on, and we just haven't got the options in the wide area. We've obviously got two young lads that have legs and have energy, but they are centre forwards. We have Pigs, who now has had his rest. We expect a big nine games from Pigs going forward, but we've just got no flexibility in the wingers, so we protected Ollie O'Neill. Okay, I can keep Ollie on. Ollie was a threat. I can keep Shaq on. But for the majority of the game, we was going to have to do defensive work, sliding, shifting, and then when we countered, we would have had to ask them to run and sprint 60, 70 metres. That would have been tough, and we still could have lost the game. So we would arrive there Monday morning, still chasing our tail. The fatigue, well, they've actually had a free week last week, and now they've only played 40, 50 minutes respectively, and now they should be fresh, they should be ready to go, so there's no excuses from them two now.
Port Vale to come, they're down the bottom of the table on a tough run, but under new management, what kind of challenge are they going to give us?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously not the start that Darren Moore wanted, a successful manager in this league with Sheffield Wednesday. We expect a team coming fighting for their lives. They're the bottom league for the reason, but they're fighting, and they was in the game against Shrewsbury. It wasn't much in the game. They just conceded from two poor goals. So we expect any game in this league. You look at our run that we went on. We had Portsmouth away, Bolton, Charlton, some big clubs. But we've actually struggled at home against the Burtons, the Bristol Rovers, the teams that have come and camped in. So we're going to change a few things, and hopefully he'll help us.
Top stuff there from Richie, and some more stuff that we'll pick into in just a moment. But before we do that, let's take a look and see the side that Richie has opted for this evening's game, and 4 players dropped to the bench. The first one, of course, being Ethan Galbraith, who misses out after his 2 yellow cards against Wigan. Tom James, Darren Pratley and Ruel Sotiriou also dropped to the bench. They're all there waiting to come on. Obviously, maybe it's just some tired legs. But then let's run through the starting lineup in its entirety. In between the sticks is Sol Bryn. Across the back 4, at right back, we have Rob Hunt. The captain this evening is Omar Beckles, and he's partnering Brandon Cooper at centre back. And coming into the side, starting at left back, is Jayden Sweeney. In the midfield, it's Jordan Brown alongside Idris El Mazouni. And then in that number 10 role is Max Sanders. And leading the line is Joe Pigott. And either side of him on the wings is Shaq Ford and Ollie O'Neill. And then on the bench for Leyton Orient is Sam Howes, Tom James, Ruel Sotiriou, Darren Pratley, Dan Aduajai, Zek Abirio and Gaughan Edwards. So an interesting point that Richie maybe picked up on was the game plan that he had to adapt to on Saturday because of Ethan Galbraith sending off. Altered maybe his substitutes in that game and his thinking towards this one, especially in the likes of Shaq Ford and Ollie O'Neill. He's obviously expecting or hoping for a lot of them after bringing them off for a rest on Saturday.
Yeah, he's obviously made those decisions on Saturday with a view to the game tonight. He knows that. I don't think by any means he surrendered on Saturday, but I think it's just he knows this was a big winnable game, and he wants those boys fresh. He wants them sharp, dynamic tonight, and I think bringing Joe Pigott into the team as well, who has not had too much football recently, as Richie said there. He hopes he's rested and raring to go. I think hopefully we'll see a lively performance from those front three. And as I said before, I think You know, with Pigott in there, we know he's an aerial threat, and I think I can see us trying to service the box, putting in balls for him to try and attack and score from.
Having Joe Pigott in there does maybe change the way you approach the game, and as we discussed earlier about those couple of changes, and as Richie said, to try and tackle playing against a team that will maybe sit in and be a bit more compact. Do you expect that as an indication of how we're approaching this game in an attacking sense?
Yeah, I mean, we obviously will only know when the game starts, but it'll be interesting to see how Ollie O'Neill and Shaq Ford operate either side of Joe Pigott, because they often play kind of as inverted. So Ollie O'Neill kind of likes to come and step in onto his right foot. Shaq Ford is naturally left-footed, but very adept on his right foot. So you expect when you play with a big man up top for them to hit the byline and get the crosses in and try and find Joe Pigott. Tonight could be a different story. Maybe Ollie O'Neill and Shaq Ford will swap flanks. We've seen them do that recently against Burton Albion and Bristol Rovers too. So it'll be interesting to see how they line up. Then obviously Max Sanders trying to clean up and get into decent positions in the number 10 role. Of course, George Monker's dropped out the last couple of games, and Sanders had a really good run of it in the few games that he played before he unfortunately got injured. So having a player like Joe Pigott certainly adds a different dimension to things than having Ruel Sotirio. Perhaps less dynamic, although I know that sounds a little bit harsh, but it certainly is a different type of dynamism that he brings to the team. So be interested to see how those front three operate. Of course, then there's the other question of what they've been working on in the very, very limited time that they've had on the training pitch since Saturday, because of course they will be working on this from time to time, but it's been a really stable front three of the last couple of months with Ruel, Ollie O'Neill and Shaq Ford in that front three. So having Joe Pigott in there will be different, and hopefully they can adapt very, very quickly as the game gets going.
And on a personal level for Joe as well, Richie has said in his pre-match interview that it's a big 9 games remaining for him now. He probably hasn't scored as many goals as he would have liked to, and so it is an opportunity starting tonight to find the back of the net and kind of kick-start for the running.
Yeah, and I think what I like about Richie is that it's like he gives players opportunities. He doesn't rule anyone out. I think he understands that, especially attacking players. Their form's going to be inconsistent at times. They're not. You're not going to see a winger or a striker that's sort of at the top of his game week in, week out throughout the whole season. So people who come in and out of the side at different points, like we've seen with George Monker recently, he's had his chance. Richie's given him that opportunity. He said, "Go on, show me what you can do," and he's taken it. Dan Ajayi earlier in the season, we've seen glimpses of form from people like Jordan Graham and Joe Pigott earlier in the season as well. So now it's almost like it's Joe's turn again, and I think Richie's made a point of saying, "Look, you've had your rest, you've had your time to adapt, and you've had your time out the team. Now come in and we need you. We need a performance from you. These are your expectations. Go and deliver for me." So I think it's a big game for him, and it's a good opportunity. Once again, the manager's showing faith in him, and I think he's set the team up tonight to try and get the best from him.
Do you know what I like about that as well, is that Richie is quite clever in that he's pretty much gone public with his expectation of Joe Pigott as well. He's not just saying to him privately in the training ground, I expect a big 9 games from you. Yeah. It's public. He's kind of got, and so the fans see this, other people see this and go, right, well, he's kind of laying down the gauntlet in public to one of his players to do something. So it's kind of that added expectation, but also pressure on it.
Yeah, I think it's good management from him. And I think some players respond to it and thrive with it, and then and others maybe don't do it so well. But I think to play, from what I hear, to play in this team under Richie Wellens, the expectations are high, the demands are high, and he relies on everyone in his squad at different times in the season. So when the opportunity comes, you have to step up and perform.
And we have scored a few goals since we last played Port Vale 8 games ago. 10 goals, in fact, in those 8 games. And as we'll see here, starting off with that goal from Idris El Mazouni, we've scored some really good goals actually in that time. The form's maybe been a little bit up and down. We've spoken about the games against Burton and Bristol, but if you look at some of the play here, we've shown good attacking football, and we've been finding the net.
Yeah, and I know it sounds obvious, but when we're on the front foot with players like Ollie O'Neill, that was Ruel Sotirio, the goal getting beforehand, Idris El Mazouni's goal, of course. that crazy game against Northampton. When we take the game to teams, they have been really struggled with it, and I mean this was a flash in, well, not quite a flash in the pan type of game, but scoring 4 goals in that manner was obviously a brilliant occasion. But we were so good here against Oxford, coming from 1-0 down to win the game 2-1 by showing really good attacking intent. Of course, George Moncur with this goal, it's a shame that he's missing out and has missed out the last couple of games. But we've shown really good attacking intent, and I think those games that we've lost, the last couple, the 1-0 games that have been, albeit tight affairs, we just look like we've kind of like lost a little bit of steam, which you can kind of expect, of course, but Richie won't stand for it, as Joe was mentioning. The expectations are high, and we've got an opportunity still in this season to do something, and that's not going to be, that expectation is still going to be there until it's fully over.
And what struck me there watching those goals is that since that Idris El Mazouni goal, all of the goals that we've scored since have been shared out quite evenly between all of our attacking players. Shaq Ford, Oliver Neal, Moncur, they're all getting in amongst it. So for Joe to come in tonight, it's almost quite not easy, but all of the players around him are clicking. So hopefully he can just fit in seamlessly.
Yeah, I think he is coming into a team where all our attacking players, but like by and large, have been in good form. So in terms of goals, assists, and performances in general. And I think when you look at those goals, then you see some of our better attacking play. We're dynamic, we're sharp. It's quick movements. It's someone beating someone and getting to the byline, or it's someone it's doing things at pace and at speed. And I think that's going to be key tonight. We need to recognise we are going to have to. I expect us to have a lot of the ball, but when the time's right, we need to recognise that we need to be like quick and direct and go for goal. Do you know what I mean? And sort of be as sort of, what's the word, like, I don't know, just go for it. Like, don't be patient, don't play safe, but when we have the opportunity, like in and around the box, take chances, take risks, and try and get shots off, I think.
Well, hopefully we take some risks and score some goals. And of course, don't forget that you can watch every minute of the action tonight here on Orient Live, as it's a Tuesday night. Fans can watch all around the world. That's in the UK and internationally as well. So just head over to the website that's on screen now to pick up your streaming pass to watch along with us here on Orient Live. And of course, you will have also seen popping up throughout the show, we've got a very special offer on at the moment just for you. It's the winter jackets that are on sale at the moment, and there's 20% off all winter jackets whilst stocks last. The offer's available in store and online, and you can take advantage of it right now by heading over to the Orient website. And although it's March, still quite wet and windy, so you can still get it now and then be prepped for next winter as well. Right then, it's time to look back to last Friday when it was International Women's Day, and one of our players headed out into the community and did some fantastic work. So let's take a look at it now.
We've been partnering with Leyton Orient Trust for the best part of this year now, and we're loving what they're doing, particularly with our girls with the after-school football. The after-school football provision is fantastic. We have coaches who come in weekly and they train the girls, they work on drills with them, building up their confidence, building up their self-esteem, encouraging them that football's not only for boys, it's for girls as well, and actually we've got some fantastic players who are developing their skills.
Today was International Women's Day. I spoke about my football journey and then which women have inspired me. And then we did a Q&A where they asked me loads of questions about my football journey and how I've got to where I am now. I got to show them some skills and they got to show me some skills that they learn. And they showed me all what they've learned and what they've done in their football session so far. It means a lot to me because when I was younger, I never had anyone come in and do football drills. Not just football, but no, I didn't really have any women come in and show me what it is like to be a woman, especially in these days and especially in sport. And it's grown a long way. So for me to come in at such a young age and show the younger generation of female footballers that they want to be, that they can do whatever they want to do, and I've done it so they can do it.
And supported really well with Leyton Orient Trust. We have a fantastic relationship with all the coaches who come here and lead our football sessions, and having Layla in today to inspire the future generation and reminding ourselves of the challenges that young women have faced and also their role in football. So really thankful, we really appreciate it, and hopefully our children, as you can see behind me, are having an amazing afternoon today too.
Fantastic stuff there. And now let's take a look at the visiting side. It's the Valiants who travel to E10 and they will be desperate for any points, let alone 3. So let's take a look and see the starting lineup that Darren Moore has opted for to try and snatch something here at the Gaughan Group Stadium. And in goal for Port Vale is Connor Ripley. We have Dan Jones, Tom Sang, the captain Nathan Smith, Ben Garrity, Alex Myton, Funso Ojo. We have Jason Lowe, ex-Orient player Gavin Massey. We have Jesse Deborah, and leading the line is James Wilson. And on the bench is Jason Lutvola, Casper Lapata, Ryan Loft, Ethan Chislett, Jensen Weir, James Plant and Bailey DePieper. Now, we touched on them already briefly, but they are second bottom. Their form hasn't probably upturned as they expected it would since Moore came in. They'll be looking at tonight and going, as we're saying, it's kind of do or die. They'll be potentially in a similar mindset, so it's going to be a real battle.
Massively so, and I mean, their form's been incredible in so much as how bad it's been. They haven't got a win in 2024. They had this start to the season where they lost their first game of the season 7-0 to Barnsley, then picked up like some really decent and eye-catching results. Only lost two games in their first 13, and since then their form has just fallen off a cliff. It's incredible that they've fallen off so badly. Their fans will be kind of worried, and I'm sure they would be. They had this strange situation about their management. Actually, the last time that we played against them, so a couple of months ago, and then Darren Moore, who has got a promotion under his belt only last season from this division with Sheffield Wednesday up to the Championship, has come in and in his 6 games has only drawn 1 game and lost 5. So yeah, on paper, I know football's not played on paper, of course, but on paper it looks like a game that we absolutely have to be getting 3 points from. But you're right to say this is kind of it for Port Vale. The way that form has been, any sort of upturn, any sort of point they'll be scrapping for. But I mean, we've been in a similar position when the form goes down. To try and arrest that slide is so difficult, and so yeah, they'll be scrapping for everything tonight. I think the big positive for them is that they've got Ben Garrity back in the last couple of games. He's by far and away their best player, 12 goals and 9 assists from midfield. So that's a bit of a boost. But even since he's come back in, their form hasn't increased or got better. So yeah, this is going to be a tough evening for them. Hopefully we can make it even tougher.
Whilst we're talking about them scrapping for their lives and fighting for survival, on the flip side of that, confidence, as Andrew's alluded to, must be beneath the bottom of the barrel when it must feel like they can't buy a win. And as a player, how do you approach a game against a team? Maybe you look at us and think they've beaten these teams in recent weeks. How do you pick yourself up for it when the going gets tough?
I think it's a combination of, like, you got to have good characters and a good manager who can motivate you, and when you have been losing games, you have to find a way to just put the latest defeat behind you and try and get yourself up for the next one. And I think, I'm sure, as Andrew said, they will be up for it and they'll come and they'll scrap and they'll work hard. But one thing about being in this sort of run of form is your spirit is easily killed off if you concede sort of early on in games. And I think like I said, I can't really see them getting anything, but they will come and be more than happy with a point, I think. So they will be quite defensive and cautious, but if Orient can start fast and take the game to them and really sort of impose themselves and get a goal, then you can easily just see this Port Vale team starting to crumble because their confidence will be so fragile.
I mean, that is the big thing, really, isn't it? It's we've got to really take the game to Port Vale from the first minute and impose ourselves. It's probably easier said than done sitting here in the studio, though.
Yeah, well, I mean, it certainly is. It's easier sitting here. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they line up as well, because since Darren Moore's come in, they've kept a relatively similar formation. They play a 3-4-1-2, so 3 at the back, 5 at the back, whatever you want to call it. So I kind of expect them to sit back for quite a while. I'd be surprised to see them really come out of the traps fast. They'll probably look at what the likes of Burton and Bristol Rovers did in having like a really solid bank of 5 and allow us with the ball and try and hit us on the break. They've got Alex Myton in there, who's got some pedigree in higher leagues. I think he's very pacey as well. He hasn't really played that many games for them, but picking him suggests that they're going to try and hit us on the break with a bit of pace. But maybe he'll just be feeding off scraps for large parts of the game. But I mean, the blueprint is there for their point of view. The Bristol Rovers and the Burton Albion, we'll see what they did. But hopefully, like I said, we'll make it really, really difficult for them.
Now, I believe he left in the summer that Joe joined, but Gavin Massey is the player that we've pulled out to highlight as the danger man. And I guess the reason for that is if you cast your mind back to, 2017, he was probably the one senior player that you felt really stood up. Joey talked about big characters. He scored some big goals, and he was the one who really dug in. And as we'll see from the end of the clips here, but he's still got that ability, hasn't he? As we'll see from some of his recent clips and some of him in an Orient shirt as well.
Yeah, he was a good player to watch. I mean, in a fairly dark spell for the club, of course. He came and I mean, not only has he got decent ability that he's kept, but he also looked like he cared as well, which was a struggle for some players that came to the club around that period. But as we'll see in the clips of Gavin Massey, he's got some very, very good ability, and he's taken that onto places like Port Vale and having come from us. He's done all right.
We've got them here now. I believe some of his latest bits of action. When he played for us, he was a quick winger. He could deliver a ball, he could hit a ball, and as a fullback, Joe, he's probably not an easy one to defend against.
Yeah, I played against him a few times. Always, whether he's playing down the middle or out wide, always a goal threat. Wants to get himself into goal-scoring positions. Direct, pacey. When he does play out wide, he knows where the centre forward wants the ball. As you can see there, arriving at the back post, he's sharp and alive in the box. And it'll be one that we have to look out for and take care of tonight for sure.
These are the clips where we're throwing it back a little bit. There's a finish coming up, Andrew. I think against Portsmouth. It might be the one after this, but it shows that if he has the ball on the edge of the box, it could fly into the top corner.
Yeah.
Here it is.
It's a great goal. It's excellent. When you think of goals against Portsmouth, you often think of Joby McAnuff's one, but I mean Gavin Massey's one there. It's not spoken about enough.
Well, hopefully we can keep him quiet this evening, and there's just under 2 minutes until kick-off, and it's rapidly approaching. So let's very, very quickly remind ourselves of how the O's are lining up. And in goal for Leyton Orient is Solbrin. Across the back line, we have Rob Hunt coming in at right back. Sorry, we have Brandon Cooper and Omar Beckles, who's wearing the armband, at centre back, and Jaden Sweeney is at left back. In midfield, we have Jordan Brown and Idris El Mazouni. Max Sanders is in the 10. Shaq Ford and Ollie O'Neill are out wide, and leading the line is Joe Piggott. And you can see the subs bench there too. But the players are making their way out onto the pitch now here at the Gaughan Group Stadium. So it's time to hand over to our match commentary team, Dave Victor and Matt Hiscock.
Good evening and welcome to what is a must-win game, I think it's fair to say, for both the O's and the Valiants, but for very different reasons. The O's need to return to winning ways in order to close the gap on 6th place Stevenage, and of course we're up to North Hertfordshire on Saturday, whilst the Valiants are still looking for their first win under Darren Moore and their first victory of 2024. But the O's not so long ago showed, Matt, that they can do it on a wet night in Stoke.
Yeah, and I think thinking back to that victory at Port Vale, I remember in the commentary, I said I feared the worst for Port Vale, just their whole demeanour and their approach, but more the lack of quality that they've had. Now, they've brought in Darren Moore since then, and things have not changed, and that has to be a massive concern for the visitors. But as we know all too well, it's never as simple as that. Teams that are down there fighting for their lives, they'll find that extra gear, they'll find that extra level. So this will be, I'm sure, a test for the O's tonight, and it's a much changed Orient lineup.
It is. 2 changes for Port Vale, but let's go through the changes for the O's.
Yeah, well, there's 4 of them, so we can confirm, of course, that Jaden Sweeney, Joe Piggott, Jordan Brown and Rob Hunt all start this evening. And the players that make way, of course, Ethan Galbraith suspended after his red card. Raul Sotiriou drops to the bench, as does Darren Prattley, as does Tom James. So Richie Wellens, I think, trying to freshen things up here. He did say post-match on Saturday that players were a little tired, and certainly getting towards the business end of the season. So it's a fresh approach this evening for the O's.
It is. What about Port Vale under Darren Moore? Just the 1 point in his first 6 games. That was against Fleetwood, and they were winning with 88 minutes played.
Yeah, it's remarkable, isn't it? I mean, Darren Moore, his management skills are going to be severely tested. This time last year, it was also different. He was with Sheffield Wednesday at the top of League One. They had to do it the hard way, of course, that incredible turnaround that I'm sure most football supporters will never forget after beating a deficit.